On Instagram earlier this morning, you're going to piss off a lot of people when you start doing what's best for you. Now, in the comment section, he said this, and that's fine. I've worked my whole life to prove that the system is blind to see talents like mine. Now that everyone sees it, they want me to conform to that same system that has failed me all those years. I'm not mad at anyone, I'm just asking for the freedom to prove them all wrong. Release me, Raiders. Hashtag no more. Hashtag they put blinders on a horse for a reason. Hashtag no more fake. I want to bring Ryan Clark into the conversation here. He joins us on the phone. Ryan, we've talked about this a lot. You're a former teammate. You know Antonio Brown really well. What was your reaction when you saw his post this morning?
I mean, I'm not surprised. I think, everybody else is. I mean, this is one of those things where, I said he was self-centered. I said he was selfish to a point where he can't see outside of his world, and he doesn't sometimes know how other things affect other people or really take those people into consideration. And I believe this is just another thing where Antonio Brown has internalized all of these things that are happening as it not being his fault and being someone else's, and he blames the Raiders for these things, and it's all been motivated by money. And now with Adam Schefter reporting that the fines last night voided his guaranteed money, that security he wanted, the thing he wanted in moving on from Pittsburgh, he no longer has. And in not having that, he doesn't want to be a part of this organization or a part of this team, because it was never about winning. It was never about creating something new in a new place or dispelling some of these rumors, myths, and truths actually about himself. And now you see the manifestation of that with the YouTube post last night and now the Instagram post saying, release me.
What kind of value do you think he would have with other teams around the league, considering the situation that's happened here? We know his talent, obviously. The Raiders gave him some leeway because of that. But at the end of the day, what kind of value does he have knowing that he's done all this?
Well, I think he understood his value when you look at his apology. His apology was on the cusp of being of the Raiders, or some of the talk being that the Raiders could take back some of that guaranteed money. So he apologized, and as soon as that was voided out, now he had an issue, and that shows you that Drew Rosenhaus, his team, understands that the only guaranteed money for Antonio Brown that looks like $30 million is in Oakland. And now that that's gone, I think they believe that you can't get that on the open market. So someone will take Antonio Brown, but you can't take him with the risk. You can't put a risk on your organization in that manner. You also can't hit the salary cap in that way, because you don't know what this guy might do or if he will be available to you. And so for me, Antonio Brown becomes one of those players, we'll take him, but we will only take him at a price that we're comfortable with.
Have you ever seen anything like this in your time, just the emotional swings that have gone on in the last, 24, 48 hours?
Well, I think the huge thing is this, right? We've never really been at a time where we have this much access to a player, right? Social media has given us something different. There's been things where people do things inside of buildings or inside of meeting rooms, inside of offices that we never get to hear about. Some of those thoughts can't be put out immediately the way that you can with social media. And so we're getting to watch this thing happen live. We're getting to watch this thing happen minute by minute. So no, we've never seen anything like this because we've never had this type of access, and it's great for us, right? It gives us an opportunity to talk, and it gives us an opportunity for people to weigh in on what Antonio Brown is doing. But this is definitely new from a standpoint of the Oakland Raiders have to deal with all these things very publicly, which makes it extremely hard to move on with Antonio Brown as a part of the Oakland Raiders organization.
Well said, Ryan. It is real-life sports drama. Thank you very much.
For more, let's bring in our football analyst, Dan Orlovsky, who is in Columbus. He's working the Ohio State game, which we'll get to in just a moment. Dan, first, what's your reaction to Antonio Brown's latest Instagram post asking for the Raiders to release him?
Yeah, it's the same reaction I've had from the jump. Antonio Brown is a great player. He's not a great pro. And as a Raiders organization, listen, you can no longer allow him to put himself in front of your head coach and in front of, or more important than, your general manager, or more important than every single other player on that roster, more important than your owner. And at the end of the day, Jay, it's as easy as this. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me once, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, shame on me. The Raiders have to take control of this situation and no longer allow him to do the things he's done. He can't play for them.
All right, let's go to your job today. The game you're at, Cincinnati at number 5, Ohio State. Justin Fields coming off that terrific debut with the Buckeyes. Where could he even get better going forward?
Yeah, I'd say there's two areas. One, against the blitz. He had such early success last week, and then Florida Atlantic started to do some stuff protection-wise or attacking protection-wise and blitzed him. He did not see it well. Not only him, but the offensive line and the running back. So Cincinnati is a defense that is going to try and come after you. So understanding, listen, this is the pressure. I got to get this ball out of my hands. That's going to be paramount today for him moving forward. And the second thing is this, just handling the details of situational football. When I should or should not get out of the pocket. I'm down in field goal range. Is it important for me to make sure I get my 3 points? I'm running the football. What hits I can and cannot take. We do have to remember, this is this kid's second start in college football. He still is very young. A great start last week, but it'll be interesting to see if he can stack another one this week.
What's the matchup you're going to be keeping a close eye on during this game today?
Well, I've obviously talked about pressure a ton. I would say the offensive line for Ohio State versus Cincinnati's defensive line and linebackers. Yes, Justin Fields struggled a little bit against the pressure last week, but I mentioned so did that offensive line. Cincinnati likes to move their defensive line around a ton with stunts and games. They like to bring pressure. They want to see if Justin Fields, again, in only his second start, can handle some of this stuff, especially early on. Ohio State's offensive line needs to play really good, communicate, and handle all the exotic pressures that Cincinnati will throw at them.
Another interesting storyline, Cincinnati head coach Luke Fickell returning to face the Buckeyes for the first time. See it at the top of the hour over on ABC. Dan Orlovsky, thank you, my friend.
All right, coming up, Adam Schefter weighing in, bringing us some more context to this
Blind to see talent like mine. Now that everyone sees it, they want me to conform to that same system that has failed me all those years. I'm not mad at anyone. I'm just asking for the freedom to prove them all wrong. Release me, Raiders. Hashtag no more. Hashtag you put blinders on a horse for a reason. Hashtag no more fake. Here's Paul Gutierrez with how we got to this point.
It's all about respect. I don't need to prove nothing to anyone. If they want to play, they're going to play by my rules. If not, I don't need to play.
Raider Nation, we got a little better today, and it's all because of the way this guy plays football.
In my opinion, we acquired the best wide receiver in football.
I'm here to just be a surge of energy, of positivity, and a good force, a great teammate. I'm looking forward to making these guys proud.
Let's get to work.
First day as a Raider, baby. Woo!
He's a fun guy to be around. I expect a lot more drama from number 84.
Really, from the time that Antonio Brown has arrived in Oakland, we've had him burning his feet in the cryotherapy chamber.
This foot injury wasn't his fault. You know, this was a total accident.
These guys have been doing a good job with supporting me. I'm excited here to just do my job.
We've had him go on with the helmet issue.
We've pretty much exhausted all avenues of relief. It's time for him to be all in or all out.
I'll make sure I put on the right equipment-approved helmet and be ready to go shortly.
Breaking news out of Oakland, the Raiders plan on suspending Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown's not in the building today. He won't be practicing. I don't have any more information for you right now.
I've been talking about the same guy every day. So I'm emotional about it. I hope you understand why. I think a lot of this guy.
Is there any chance that he could play or will play week 1?
That's up to the Raiders. If it's up to us, he would like to play.
Antonio's back today. We're really excited about that.
Thank you very much. Monday night.
That's the plan. I want to apologize to my teammates, organization. I'm excited to be a part of the Raiders and see you guys soon.
But wait, there's more. Brown dropped this video featuring a taped conversation with John Gruden.
Well, this is what the Raiders signed up for, but at the end of the day, it's all about winning football games, and they need all 53 guys pulling in the same direction.
So this story taking a deep dive, lots of emotional turns. Antonio Brown asking to be released this morning. I want to bring in Mike Tannenbaum on the phone. And Mike, what's your take on what the Raiders have done here?
Well, they're obviously in a very hard position in the bill because at 4 o'clock today, $14,625,000 of Antonio Brown's 2019 salary becomes guaranteed, and that's a collectively bargained provision. So regardless of his behavior, they are really up against it and literally hours away from that becoming finalized. So they're in a very hard position.
So as a GM, take me through a front office perspective here. When a player asks for his release, what happens after that?
Typically I tell the player, look, take a deep breath. There's a lot of reasons why. And then I would huddle with ownership as well as the head coach. And you have to proceed very slowly here because you just can't indiscriminately grant releases for each player because now you'll have a team of free agents that want to get back out to the free agent market. So you work really hard to solve the problems you can ahead of time so it never gets to this point. But again, they're in a tough position because of this. Not only is his money guaranteed right now, obviously they could go through a conduct detrimental claim, which could potentially void both this year and next year in the bill, but I would not grant his release just because he asked for it. Because again, that would just set such a dangerous precedent with the rest of your locker room.
So what kind of recourse do the Raiders have if he doesn't show up or play on Monday night?
Well, this is where it's such an interesting dynamic. If I was Antonio Brown, I would show up because I don't want to do anything that would jeopardize my guaranteed money in terms of next season. So the Raiders could suspend him for conduct detrimental and then take their chances that an arbitrator would agree with them. The worst case scenario for Oakland in the bill, and this is really what they're worried about, is if they would suspend the player for conduct detrimental and initially void those guarantees, which again is about $30.1 million between this year and next year, and they release him, and then the arbitrator subsequently says, well, you could release the player. However, his behavior may be weird, it may be unusual, but in my determination, it's not conduct detrimental, and therefore you now owe him $30 million. And could you imagine if you're the Raiders, you would be out Antonio Brown, you'd be out the money, you'd be out a third and a fifth round pick. So that's truly worst case scenario for them. And that's what they're going through right now. But by 4 o'clock today, if he's on the roster, regardless of any sort of conduct detrimental claim they may have, this year's salary becomes guaranteed because that's a collectively bargained provision.
So lots of implications. Let's just say he is released, potentially, okay? How would other GMs look at this situation? What's happened this last week when deciding on, hey, should we bring this guy into our squad?
That's what's so fun and interesting about the NFL and the bill. Some team is going to look at it as an incredible opportunity. He's a great player, and I went through a situation in 2016 at the Dolphins with Laramie Tunsil. He had an issue on draft night with a video that scared away a lot of teams. We did our homework. He was a great kid. He turned out to be a really good player, and candidly, it turned out to be a great opportunity for us to get what we thought was the best player in the draft at the 13th overall selection. So if I'm another team, I do my research and say, hey, can we bring this guy in on a 1-year deal and get an incredibly productive receiver? So somebody will sign him. He's too good of a player. So as messy and as loud as he's been in Oakland, somebody will sign this player because he's just too talented. And that's what's going to be interesting in terms of spinning this story forward if indeed Oakland does release the player.
Big decision to make, and as you mentioned, 4 p.m. today, a huge marker for the Oakland Raiders. We will watch out for that. Thank you, Mike. You know who's really struggling with this AB news? It's Vegas. They cannot keep up with the twists and turns. The Monday night matchup between Oakland and Denver opened as a pick'em. But after reports suggested that the Raiders plan to suspend AB, Caesars moved the line to Denver -2. Then when John Gruden said AB would play, it moved back to Denver -1. And here we are back at Denver -2 after AB's latest Instagram post.
The bill still ahead. Ryan Clark joins the show. Why Antonio Brown's former teammate is far from